こんにちは、椿です. In this lesson, I will be teaching you the fundamental grammar particles for sentence structure. That is, wa, ga, and mo. The wa particle deals with the topic of a sentence. The ga particle deals with identity. And the mo particle deals with inclusion. Now, these three particles are essential to Japanese sentence structure, as you will see them in almost every single Japanese sentence. So these are very important, and you must learn them very early on. However, the wa and the ga particles are among the hardest grammar particles to learn. This is a hassle, but I assure you it's not that hard. So now, why don't we start with the first particle, and that is the wa particle. Now, the wa particle is not written like what you would think it would be written. You would think that it would be written as this. This is wa, correct? This is the hiragana for wa. And whereas this one is actually ha. As you can see, if you learned hiragana already, ha is this hiragana here, and this is actually wa. The problem here is that this is a particle. It's special. So it doesn't want to be called ha. It wants to be called wa. Well, why? Well, this is a historical and linguistic reason. Historical being that this is how it has always persisted. If you need more information, you can always research this. There's tons of research linguistics about Japanese. And wa is just basically how Japanese people have come to say this particle. Now, so don't confuse it with wa. They are not the same. This is not right. Although I have to mention that this is also a particle. It's a gobi, a sentence ending, but don't worry about that for now. So the wa topic particle refers to the topic of a sentence. I'll let that sink in. What is the topic of a sentence? Well, in Japanese, when we talk about something, we have to think of it differently than we do in English. In English, for example, if I wanted to say, let's get rid of this for now. Let's also get rid of the rising sun. Don't need that for now. And let's say the boy walked to school. Okay, so we have a pretty normal sentence. Now, in this sentence, if you know English grammar well, you can easily tell what's the subject, verb, predicate. So we can structure this very easily in English, right? However, the Japanese version or the Japanese translation don't have the same kind of parts of the sentence. It doesn't work that way. That's why every time we try to translate English directly into Japanese, it always fails. You cannot hope to translate the boy as the subject, and then school is, to school, is one thing, and then walked, for example, verb. And you can't hope to do this. It does not work in Japanese. You can't switch things around. For example, some people say that, okay, since Japanese is a SOV language, subject object verb language, and they would try to bring it this way and then take this way. So then it would be the boy school, to school walked. And in a sentence as simple as this, it's kind of actually pretty close in the Japanese version. So what is the Japanese version of this sentence? Well, a good translation would be something like 男の子は学校に行った Oh, I shouldn't use kanji, huh? 男の子は学校に行った. And yeah, what's going on here? Like there. Oh, there we go. Okay, so 男の子 is a boy here. So 男の子, boy. And 学校 is school. So we can link this here and then link this here, and then 行った is walked. So, and if you can see that this one was subject, verb, object, and then this is subject, object, verb. However, I would stress not to think of it this way. So don't ever try to actually, place sentence structure like this. Never try to literally translate a English sentence. Now, if you've noticed the e here, I mean the ni here, don't worry about this for now. We'll learn that later. So, this works for very simple sentences, but when you get to complicated sentences, or when you argue about the semantics, it will never work out. So don't ever try to translate English sentences directly into Japanese based on grammar, because English sentences has a different components of grammar than and Japanese grammar has different components as well. So back on the topic of the topic particle, as that's what we were talking about. So in this example, the boy is the topic, right? So otoko no ko is topic. Why don't we simplify this, because we don't want any words that we don't really know. How about I just say 男の子は I don't know. You know what? Let's just do a different sentence. All right, something that we have learned. これは魚だ. All right, so I'm sure this one will be easier. So これ is これ means this. So これ this is a fish. Okay, so これ is this, and wa, the wa particle, stresses that this is the topic. So we can kind of divide this up as this. In Japanese, you don't actually have spaces in between the words. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but I'll just separate it for now. So これ wa marks the topic of the sentence as これ, and これ means this. Okay? Now, everything after wa refers to the topic. So essentially, when you're using the topic particle wa, you're telling the reader you're basically telling whoever you're communicating to, this is the topic, or this is what I'm talking about. So a better, more literal translation to English would be something like about fish. About this. So everything after wa is, or everything after this is, you can talk anything about it. Anything about this. So in the end, the wa particle merely marks what the speaker is trying to talk about, or the topic of the sentence. Now in this case, the wa particle signifies that this, これ, is a fish, sakana, and da we learned last lesson. So, これは is meaning about this. And then the declaration, sakana da, is the packet of information given to the topic, これ. So if you think of it this way, if you think of it very, very rock solid way of breaking the sentence down, the topic is this, and what's said about it is everything after it, which is sakana da. That's a declaration for being a fish. So it's a fish, and now it's talking about kore, or this. So if you can understand the semantics of this sentence, kore wa sakana da, then you have already understood wa, which is one of the hardest particles to understand in Japanese grammar. You will find that you will be confused later on if you think of wa as the same thing as a subject in English. So remember, wa is not, wa does not mark the subject of a sentence. So do not equate topic with subject. They are not the same thing. So topic and a subject, they are not the same. Let's have some examples for why we might be confused about the topic as opposed to the English subject. Now, for example, if I have something like 明日はテストだ. Again, there are no spaces in Japanese. This is just for you to be more clear about what I'm talking about here. So 明日 means tomorrow. So 明日 here means tomorrow. The wa particle signifying the topic of the sentence is tomorrow. And testo, I'm sure you can guess. Testo means test or exam, or basically you have a test at school. And da, again, declaration. So we already know that something's being said about tomorrow, and it's declared as a test. Now, if you just try to translate this into English, you would get something pretty weird. For example, tomorrow is test. Well, that obviously doesn't really make sense, does it? Well, that's because in this translation, we have assumed that 明日 is the subject of the sentence. In reality, the subject doesn't actually exist in the sentence 明日はテストだ. Only the topic existed. Only what was being talked about. Given the context, you would be able to understand it. For example, if Sally asks Joe, what do we have in English class tomorrow? And Joe replies, we have a test. Then he could say, 明日はテストだ. So in this case, Sally knows what's being talked about, since she was asking about tomorrow. And given the context, she understands that when Joe says 明日はテストだ, it means that tomorrow in English class, they will have a test. So the topic of a particle marks what's being talked about, but it does not necessarily mean that it's the subject of the sentence or the doer of the verb. It does not have anything to do with it. It's just what's being talked about. And get that, let that sink in, and you will really be able to understand what's going on. So another example. Tanaka-san wa? Kind of like a question. Now, in this example, what's really being talked about? Well, it's Tanaka-san. if you don't know, Tanaka is a last name in Japanese. San, or we'll learn that again in the future, it's actually a title, something like Mr. or Mrs. So Tanaka-san, Mr. or Mrs. Tanaka, is the topic of this little interjection here. But the problem is, how would you be able to explain what's being said here? Well, this could be in a conversation. For example, Tanaka-san and, I don't know, Suzuki-san are in a conversation, and Tanaka-san asks Suzuki-san, what are you doing on Friday? Are you free Friday night? Do you want to go watch a movie? And then maybe Suzuki-san would say something like, oh, no, I'm free on Friday night. And how about you? Well, in this case, the how about you, she could say, Tanaka-san wa? And that would be saying, let's change the topic. How about Tanaka-san? The topic now becomes Tanaka-san, and he will reply with the rest of the sentence, which is everything that he needs to say about the topic, Tanaka-san himself, to Suzuki-san. So, as you can see, the wa particle is actually very useful. This topic particle is very useful to denote what's to be talked about, Tanaka-san. So it could be used in a variety of situations, whereas in English, the subject of a sentence is just the subject. You can't just put it everywhere and talk about it in any way you want. And I know that this is very hard to understand, but with more examples in the future, you will be able to understand it. In the next part of this 3-part series on wa, ga, and mo, we will learn about ga. So thanks for watching, and see you next video.